Welcome back to Late Night Scrolling, the Canadian pop culture podcast hosted by me, producer Liz. I have been such a fan of music television shows for as long as I've been watching TV. Like my earliest memories of watching television, and this is not an exaggeration at all, is watching Canadian Idol. The first CDs I ever bought were Canadian Idol CDs. My first television crush was Kaylin Porter from season 2 of Canadian Idol. If you know, you know. Like those tours, those albums, they were so connective to everyone across the country rallying around young talent, new talent. We had our own star system from music television in this country, and it's been so special to see that continue over the years with new music shows emerging. Across all of this, there's one music show that is unlike any other. No one does what Amplify on APTN is doing. If you have not had the pleasure of watching this show over the first 2 seasons, grab a tissue box because I have not made it through an episode without shedding a tear. It is so moving. It is so unlike any other music show you see. You go behind the scenes with these absolutely incredible world-class musicians, Indigenous songwriters, Indigenous singer-songwriters. I feel like there's no one title that fully encapsulates who these incredible artists are that come on this show. And they take us behind the scenes of creating music and specifically creating songs that are stories that they've never told before. It's incredibly moving. It's incredibly vulnerable. The pacing of the show will shock you in how immersed you feel in the way that time moves around these stories. It's unlike any other show I've ever seen, especially in the music television world. It's a far cry from competition shows that feel like big box lights and stage and action and fast-paced. No, this is something completely different that will really change the way that you think about songwriting. I was so thrilled to hear that Amplify was coming back for season 3. It's airing right now on APTN. And I had a chance earlier this month to chat with Shane Belcourt, who is one of the producers on Amplify. Shane is someone who has such incredible knowledge around this industry, and we went incredibly deep around how they make this show. I had so many technical questions. Y'all know me. If I get a chance to talk to a producer or a director, I'm going there when it comes to all the bells and whistles that pull a show together. So we really got into things like how moving the score of the show was, how they create such incredibly vulnerable moments with these artists that are coming into the show. The Tia Woods episode specifically really moved me, and we spent a lot of time talking about that episode. Y'all know Tia Woods. She is such a superstar. If you didn't catch her performance at the Junos, please go on YouTube and watch it. Like, Tia Woods is one of the most exciting people in Canadian pop culture right now. So we did spend a lot of time talking about her episode and how that all came together. If you want to hear the song that Tia made in the show, you can go to Amplify's YouTube page and they posted the clip, but please give yourself the gift of watching the entire episode so that you can hear the story and all of the intention behind it. It is so masterful. She's so young and yet like such a visionary and so incredibly in touch with what makes her artistry so unique. I could go on all day, but instead I will let Shane tell you all about it. Enjoy this conversation with Shane Belcourt. Season 3s are hard to come by, so I was excited to hear Amplify is back for season 3. It feels like this show is just getting started with the amount of talent it can bring through the door, the amount of stories it can tell. Were you excited to come back for a season 3?
I couldn't have been more excited. I mean, every season of Amplify has just been like, I feel so lucky to make it. And I know a lot of people say that when producers and creators of shows, and that I think that's always true. This is one where it's like, it's just a dream project. I get to work with so many directors and songwriters. We make a show about Indigenous excellence, and music is the central focus of it. I mean, I'm like, yes, all day long, yes.
Yes. It checks all the boxes. I was texting with a friend that actually appears in Tia Wood's episode, Haley Robinson. She's in one of the shots when you see the final song. And I was saying to Haley, all this show does is make me cry because it's so beautiful. It's so vulnerable. I always have to have a tissue beside me when I turn it on because I know, like, it doesn't matter what the story is about, it's going to get me. I wonder how emotional it is to be a part of developing these stories and kind of watching it all come together in real time. Is it as emotional for you creating it as it is for us receiving it?
One of the key tenets of the show has always been to pair an Indigenous songwriter that's being featured in each episode with a director who's from the same area or specific community. So that's something where we're allowed to sort of, because the director and artist know each other, like for one episode is directed by Trevor Soloway, features Darcy Turningrobe. Trevor and Darcy are both Blackfoot from outside of Calgary and in their reserve. So they know each other. They know the same world. So as a producer, when we're speaking to Trevor, like, hey, what do you need for your episode? How can we help? What's your outline? You know, at that point, I'm just speaking to Trevor about sort of story points or visual approach. Very little. I mean, Trevor's a genius. So what we do is we just sort of support the director and the artist from the same community. And that's been such a key part of the show from its inception. It's an anthology show. So different artists, different directors, every episode allows us to have the right pairing. So that emotional stuff that you're speaking about is something that we as producers aren't really there on the ground level for it. The director really kind of takes and owns that space. And our all Indigenous crew that travels for every episode, just the fact that the people who are watching this fully Indigenous crew with an Indigenous director sort of make this piece together, there's a sense of community and trust that allows all that emotional stuff to come out and feel safe and to feel honored at the end of the day through us in post.
Yeah, totally. So you have the tissues beside you in post as much as maybe we do on the couch watching the show.
We watch full interviews and I'm just like, oh my God, yeah, exactly. All the raw stuff. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, it's wonderful. Well, I'm glad to hear it's not just me. It's all around the process of the show. I think the vulnerability specifically is something that has always caught me about Amplify. It always feels like no matter the director, no matter the artist coming in, the ability to create a space where people are willing to let us in to such personal stories and personal moments in their lives is something that's rarely captured, I think, on television at all. Like we see it sometimes from the fictional world based on a true story stuff where you can kind of get in from a fictional take on something true. But this feels so timely and timeless in its vulnerability. I wonder if you can maybe speak about that and from a production standpoint, from a producer standpoint, how you approach vulnerability in this show.
You know, when you ask an Indigenous artist for every episode to be inspired by something Indigenous in their lives and to create a new song out of that, right away they're reflecting on their personal Indigenous identity, the specific community that they come from, all the things that brings from their history and their people and themselves and their family. And then they're looking at something that's Indigenous, a painting, a book, a poem, a word, an idea, a teaching. And now it's really automatically personal. You know, we're not saying just write a song about, I don't know, the news headline of the day, which could get you angry, but it might not be as so personal. And in this sense, it really is. So when people are opening up about that, they're also musicians, songwriters. So it enables, like an actor or any kind of artist, it enables them to sort of like, oh, okay, I have to do good work here. I have to do deep work here. And they want to. It's not, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm going to write in a song. I'm asked to include my own language in the song. And I'm looking at something that's Indigenous from my nation and my world. And I'm working with the director. So already everything is sort of leveled up into a place of we are a family and now we got to go for it in terms of each episode. So the vulnerability piece is something that's central because it's art. It's making music. And they need to feel like they can really dig into their performance and really, we want the artist to create a song at the end of the episode that can live on as one of their songs, not as like, oh, I made this song for this weird show and I'm out, you know. So we want that buy-in from them as well, and we've been lucky that every artist has pursued their episode with that kind of reverence and joy.
I won't name other music shows, but certainly you don't get like box cutter music out of Amplify. You get something that does feel so resonant to people's like musical packages and who they are as artists. So I'm absolutely with you on that point. I want to stream these songs immediately. I've gone back into the streamers actually that I received to hear some of the songs again because they've been in my head. Especially Tia's I found to be quite moving, quite universal in this like even Canadian, like nationally idea of people feeling like they have to leave the country to go pursue creative journeys and creative careers and going to LA or New York or just really other major cities and other music hubs to have this life. And I feel like people are going to connect so much with Tia's journey in that episode. Could you share a little bit about that episode specifically and what it was like working with Tia?
Yes, I mean, I think everybody knows, or everybody should know, many people do know who Tia Wood is. This absolutely brilliant Cree performer, songwriter, who grew up making music with her family and her dad and her siblings, and beautiful traditional songs and singing in the Cree language. And that has its own beautiful story. And then Tia, at some point in her career, as revealed in the episode, decided that she needed to sort of pursue some of her own, I guess, modern music with the Cree touch and that sort of soul kind of genre. And when she broke off in that pop soul genre, she wound up, she has such an outstanding voice that and presence and coolness and smarts that she wound up with a lot of interest in the States and going to LA to pursue that. And what was interesting about this episode and this song that she chose to write about it was she was inspired by this idea of her dad saying, I love you and I know that you miss home, but sometimes in every journey you need to move forward and away from sort of healing and more about celebration and pursuing. And he's so proud of, as any dad would be, his daughter going out, while at the same time Tia Wood's like, I know, but I miss home. And that tension of I need to be somewhere, but I'm so much from somewhere that I carry them with me no matter where I go. And vice versa. You're not here, but you're always with us here. And that sort of parental father-daughter love is something that I thought was really, really special about what Tia was willing to offer to her episode, and what Alex, the director, was able to sort of pull out with Tia throughout the course of the episode, and really making something highly visual that allowed one of the key things too about the show is we only have 22 minutes for every episode, but we want to ensure that there's breathing space in every episode. The show at conception was meant to be slow and not fast, so that these moments could be poetic and hit and hold, as opposed to rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat commercial. And we want to stand apart from the loud and quickness of commercials and all the things that are boxed between every episode, and be a meditative journey with that artist in their process. And that was, so I think Alex and Tia and the show all kind of combined to sort of tell that story.
I'm so glad you brought that up. That's one of my favorite elements of the design of this show, is how you really sit in it with the people that you see on screen. You're really immersed in it and you're not rushed through it. I feel like that is such like an antithesis to what we're getting in traditional like other music shows right now, where it feels so like big box and lights and we're getting rushed through things and we can't actually think about what's happening in front of us. And I feel like one piece of that really lets us feel immersed is the score of the show, which is so stunning and almost connective to the final songs themselves in a way that it doesn't give away what the final sound is going to be, but it's enough to put us in the right headspace that by the time we hear the final song, it's like, oh, I feel like we've been in this beat the last 20 minutes of the show. Can you talk about scoring the show and how that element kind of comes into play?
Yes. So we work with Ansley Simpson. They're an Anishinaabe singer-songwriter, performer, and an unbelievable. I met Ansley at Banff when they were working on a how to score film kind of workshop, and I was doing a quick little talk there, and it just so much laughter and so much connectivity about stories and things. And then it was like, well, hey, there's a series. Would you like to do some score work on it? What Ansley does in every episode, and you're absolutely right to note it, is that they're basing the score of each episode, because it's an anthology series, there's connective tissue from the DP, the editing, and the color correction, as well as the sound design by the Wilders and Chris Cobain, but very much Ansley's score and the sonic world that each element is in is connecting the whole series together. And what Ansley's doing is touching in on the song and sort of pulling key motifs and dragging them down to what is the score for every episode. So it has a connectivity, but it also flares up with the specific elements of everyone's song. And it's something that we had spoken about conceptually. And then to see the results that Ansley was able to create, we're just like, okay, you're the best. Thank you.
It really is genius. So I love hearing how it's actually made and crafted, because it's almost like it feels like a trick by the end of the episode when you hear the final song. You're like, wait, I've been hearing this the whole time and I didn't know. So big shout out there. Absolute genius work happening. Another element that I love that really gives us that feeling of sinking into the moment and staying present is bringing the elders in to contribute their knowledge and almost like their takes on the songs and the themes of the songs. Can you talk about working with elders and bringing them in and capturing those interviews? And I think it contributes so much to the overall narrative of these episodes. And I'm sure that you must feel like their contribution is so important here.
Yeah, I mean, I think for not only the indigenous community, but many communities live and exist in multi-generational, homes or really tight connectivity to community. I think about Romeo Candido, my Filipino friend, and I go to his house or he come to my house and be like, oh man, this feels the same. And I think that that's a big piece of what every artist, like we're not demanding that an artist or a director working with that artist for each episode would have a certain list of, you must have an elder in your episode. Mm-hmm. It's just inherent in who each of these people are and how we represent ourselves collectively, which is we are learning from older people, from our elders, and the young people are folding it in. And then people my age are kind of somehow helping younger people where we can, but still looking to our elders, our parents now who are elders, and trying to find a way. And that intergenerational weave of ideas and not just connection, but conversation is a very important aspect of not only maintaining who we are and understanding who we are, but also bringing our best of ourselves forward together. So we can't do that. I can't be who I am without my grandparents and my dad, etc., and nor can my daughter and eventually my grandkids. So that kind of intergenerational weave is important. And what I love is that artists ask for it. Hey, can we, I would like to bring forth this person. And we're like, great.
I love that. That's so great. So they're contributing a lot to like the narratives too, not just musically, but in terms of the whole package of what their episode's going to be.
Yeah, they definitely have the wise ones sitting back. Like, if you want to know what this is really about, leave it to them.
You could do hour-long specials, including all that footage. I'm sure there's so much good like nuggets of knowledge there. I don't know if you can pick a favorite as the producer of the show, but is there one or two particular songs that have been stuck in your head, or one or two that you're excited to get out there so that you're not the only one singing them?
I think that it's sort of what I was really struck by. I'll talk about a few different elements. So one is Trevor Soloway is a close friend. He's a young and up and coming Blackfoot director, and he has a feature documentary that he's made about the element of indigenous male identity, and how to be vulnerable without being necessarily engaged in lateral violence. And so he's so adept at that kind of element of healing and openness that his two episodes were ones that really connected to me as an indigenous guy and dad and son. And it was really beautiful what he worked with Shane Belcourt on the premiere episode, which is about sort of like how you're vulnerable in a romantic love as a man, and how you sort of allow yourself to be wrong or to be open and supple as opposed to hard and doodly or whatever. And I thought, for Shane Belcourt, a former maybe going to be hockey star, to talk about that vulnerability with his wife on screen, I thought that was beautiful. And the other episode that Trevor made with Darcy Turning Robe, sort of like an indigenous young male who did not have sort of a sense of where his culture mattered and went sideways in life and had, self-harm, and then came out the other side through the embrace of his culture. I mean, that's a story that you hear a lot of times throughout Indigenous communities. And I think those were two ones that I was really crying and just had the chills and goosebumps.
Crying now.
I love those. So, but I could go on and on. All of them are my favorite. Those are two that popped into mind, I guess, because I feel like Trevor is talking to me. Like, it's okay, Shane. You can grow your heart and you could heal. You're going to be all right. So thanks, Trevor.
Oh, that's so beautiful, man. Now we're all going to cry. So we got to stop this interview before this just becomes a cry fest. But I'm just so excited for people to see this season because I think it's something so refreshing in the music media landscape to see. And I think the look that we get into these artists is so much more than what social media or other, like quick form behind the scenes shows can give us. So congratulations. I think this is going to be a hit.
Thank you so much, Liz. I really appreciate you taking time, and thank you for watching and liking the show. It means a lot.
Oh my God. I want to see all the screeners. I'm waiting. I'm like, I saw 2 episodes. I want to see all of them now. One more thing before I let you go, and hopefully you're okay with me with indulging me in this. You've directed 2 Heritage Minutes.
I did.
And I feel like that makes you a superstar in my world because Heritage Minutes are so central to Canadian culture and just a way to mark universally that we have our own culture in this country. Can you talk to me about what it's like to direct a Heritage Minute commercial and maybe what's something that we wouldn't know as recipients of those commercials that you think is important for people to know?
The producers and the client, of these Heritage Minutes, they're obviously passionate about history. They're passionate about the sort of the fabric of Canada and how to pull things out and showcase them and to help everybody sort of feel proud. And I remember watching them when they used to play in movie theaters before the movie started, and they were. I
remember that too. Oh yeah.
I was like, this is so great. So of course it was a real thrill to go like, oh, I'm going to make a Heritage Minute. The challenge was one was on residential school and one was on treaty. And I'll just talk about residential school, and you can assume the same for a treaty. From a historical society made up of mostly European descendants, and their view of history is not the same as ours. Mm-hmm. So right away, to their credit, they wanted to be like, listen, someone else has to tell this bit for us. And with residential school, they were interested in sort of putting it in the historical context, like all of them, right? Oh, here's the guy who created basketball, and it's an old sepia tone, dusty gym, and it feels old fashioned from before. And what was key for me and the people I was working with on those episodes, residential school is today. Mm-hmm. Residential school survivors are grandmothers and grandparents and uncles and aunties. So for me, I was like, we need to break the wall that this is in the past. Mm-hmm. And we told the Chani Wenjack story, but it ends with Pearl, his sister, saying so devastatingly, I survived residential school. My brother Chani did not. Mm-hmm. And it was the only historical minute, and we did the same thing basically in treaty, where we end with a contemporary person today commenting on and reflecting on. And it's so vital for me, and I'm thankful that they allowed it to happen, to break their rule, their recipe, to sort of go like, no, history's not in the past, it's living right now, and you need to know that. And I think that that's an important part that we were able to achieve with those. So it was at one point, as you say, like me, I was, oh my God, this is so exciting. I wish I was doing the Steve Nash minute, like just something fun. But it wasn't that. And I was actually, at the end of the day, quite grateful to have an opportunity to sort of dig deep with everybody I collaborated with on those episodes to make those minutes to make them work. Mm-hmm.
Well, they're so important, and I think that they really do stand the test of time with teaching the next generation how important it is to preserve culture. And I think Amplify kind of does that in its own way as well in terms of preserving stories and preserving music culture. So thanks for indulging me in that one, because I've always wanted to ask someone who's worked on a Heritage Minute what it's really like to make those happen. Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Late Night Scrolling. If you want more Canadian pop culture coverage in your life, you can subscribe to this podcast to get it. We have a lot of CanCon coverage coming up next week. We are at the Canadian Screen Awards. We are doing so many interviews. We have so much planned. I'm bringing you guys behind the scenes of all of it in what will probably be the most chaotic week of Canadian pop culture coverage of the year. I am so excited to reveal all about what's in store. It's all coming here to the podcast, but you can watch it in real time on Producer Liz on Instagram. That is where we're giving y'all the behind the scenes look at everything from the outfits and the fashion to how we're prepping for the red carpet and some secret projects that, if you've been listening to the past few weeks of the pod, I've been teasing. I'm so close to being able to tell you guys what is going on. You'll find out next week. I'm so excited to bring you along. And if there are Canadian stars of shows and film that you want to hear more about, make sure to let me know, because anything can happen at the Canadian Screen Awards, and I want to bring you guys as close as I can to all of your favorite stars of Canadian film and television. So make sure to DM me, comment on this episode, what you're looking forward to hearing next week, and I'll see you in Toronto at the Canadian Screen Awards. Bye!